I hadn't heard anything about this until seeing it on Erin Reed's blog. So I wanted to kind of like react to her post and talk about this a little bit. So a lot of the time we bemoan the fact that students don't have strong protections, right? Biden just recently updated or attempted to update Title IX to say that sex protections, that includes gender identity and sexual orientation and pregnancy status. And that has been like the Supreme Court said that they're not going to support it as written. So I guess they're going to wait for it to go through the courts and then they're going to judge on their own, which is crazy because I'm pretty sure that like that is not in the purview of the judiciary, but whatever. Anyway, so we know that children and like school age people are often not protected for being trans, right? So this is one of those situations where it started off strong in the sense that the school was protecting the children, but now who the hell knows what's happening. So we're going to go through this and it's a saga and we're going to react to it. A teacher was fired for refusing to use two trans students' preferred name and pronouns. So that's, atypical. We don't typically see these kind of really strong protections going on. The teacher's name is Vivian Garati, and she argued that her Pentecostal religious beliefs prohibited her from using a student's new name if she believed it was related to the student's gender transition. Garati also stated that she, quote, wanted those students out of her classroom. And after refusing to accommodate the students, her principal and a representative from the school district requested her resignation, which she provided. This led to a lawsuit in which Garati claims she should be allowed to use a student's, quote, biological name. Like, you can't even come up with it. Like, I don't think she's an English teacher or a biology teacher. What did she teach? I don't know that this actually says. It was like, your biological name, Sweaty. I'm gonna use your biological name, Sweaty. Good grief. So yeah, like this is good news. The students got the protection. She was like, I'm not even gonna teach those students. Get them out of my classroom. I mean, not that I would want to be taught by a transphobic teacher anyway, but yeah, biological names. Well, just sit with that one. Just consider that one real quick. So this case has now resulted in a lengthy and at times bizarre opinion from Barker, who is a Trump-appointed federal judge, Judge Pamela A. Barker. The case centers around Vivian Garati. She was an English teacher. Wow. At Jackson Memorial Middle School. On the first day of class in 2022, a trans student identified as student A requested that Garati use a new name with the full support of their parent. So this is not a situation where, the school is doing something and it's keeping things from the parents or anything. A similar request was made by another student identified as student B, and instead of accommodating the students, Garati ignored their requests. This led one of the students to send a polite email reminding her of their preference. This email says, I'm emailing you because I prefer to go by preferred name instead of rostered name. I know it's the start of the school year and it's hard to remember names, but I'd really appreciate it if you called me preferred name. Thank you for your time. So this has been obviously edited, but this student has been very polite and is just like gently reminding, like, I know that it's hard at the first part of the year, but please don't call me by the name on the roster. Yeah, what does she do when she gets to the pronouns part of the lessons? I guess by middle school, you're not really doing pronouns anymore. That's more elementary school stuff. If your religion stops you from respecting a student, then teaching jobs should not be an option for you. Right. It's like I don't know if we reacted to this on stream or not, but I saw something recently about like someone on Twitter was saying that they would not hire someone to work in healthcare if they knew that that person had gender critical beliefs. And people and like TERFs were getting upset about it. But it's like, no, if you can't be respectful and you can't be trusted to treat these people equally, then yeah, why would we let you in? It's like a type of hospitality care. Like, why would we let you be around human people? Why would we hire you to speak to any people, as a matter of fact, much less be responsible for their life or death care and treatment. Like, yeah, there are certain jobs that you shouldn't have can't if you can't treat people equally and be respectful. So apparently, Ms. Garati continued to ignore the student's request, acknowledging that the students, quote, looked uncomfortable, but asserting that she was, quote, equally uncomfortable. No, I don't think so. I think that you're power tripping and, like, you're basically bullying teenagers. Like, you're basically bullying a child, effectively. Yeah, it's like hiring an anti-vax pharmacist. Or, I mean, people have had issues with CVS Pharmacy and Walgreens both, for like pharmacists just choosing not to fill their prescribed gender transition hormones. So yeah, I mean, or, choosing not to fulfill your birth control prescription. There are definitely issues here. Mitternacht and I are here to ask you to hit like on the video. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe. Click the bell if you feel like it. You don't have to, though. Feel free to check out the other links in the description because I sell merch like this cute tank top. I'm running a GoFundMe to try to move 2,000 miles across the country to a place where I have rights. And I have a Patreon he's smashing his face against my face. Garati spoke with a fellow teacher and mentor, explaining that she, quote, disagreed with the student's request because of her religious beliefs and that she, quote, wanted those students out of her classroom. Over time, the repeated dead naming and misgendering began to take a toll on the students, which led student A to seek support from their school counselor. The counselor forwarded a message to Garati asking her to use the student's preferred name and pronouns. This then prompted a meeting between Garati, her principal, and a school district representative. They attempted to accommodate her by requesting that she use neutral pronouns while still using the preferred names, but Garati refused. So they tried to accommodate her, like, you don't have to use binary pronouns. You can say they, them, which again, that is a type of misgendering. Like that's not an acceptable compromise. If you know that someone identifies as binary trans, then calling them by they, them pronouns is, you could say it's either misgendering or it's degendering. But either way, we know, like, obviously that's not really an acceptable answer. But if it's going to get us through the school year, then okay, whatever. Like, let's offer a compromise. So they tried to offer a compromise here. Yeah, it's crazy to me that a grown adult is acting this way toward teenagers. But yeah, she refused. And then as a result, the officials asked for her resignation, which she did provide. Even after her resignation, a union representative offered a compromise because she's in the teachers' union, presumably, suggesting she refer to the students by their last names, which is an accommodation that she also refused. She again requested that the students be removed from her classroom, a demand that the union declined to support. You could just call them by their last names. You could just be like, hey, Malfoy, hey, Potter. Like, they tried their best to accommodate her, but at this point, she could smell the lawsuit. At this point, she knew she was going to get her bankroll. Yeah, every class I ever took where the teacher wanted to know our names, they would also ask for nicknames. Wonder if this woman also refuses to call Timothy's Tim or William's Will. Like, no, I'm not going to call you Bill. Your name is William. Which state again? It's in Ohio. The federal judge is in Ohio, so I'm assuming that this school is in Ohio. And of course, what happened to Ohio, you guys? So yeah, here's the excerpt from that. She's like saying she would like those students removed from her classroom. The district cannot do that. And the union person is basically saying, I'm trying to fight for your job, and then we can figure this out. But yeah, she's just like, nope, I don't want to. Teacher shortage, that's probably why they didn't just boot her. I mean, yeah, well, the union's job is to protect her position. Like, they want to try to make sure that she doesn't get fired for no reason or whatever, She filed a lawsuit. Oh, great. With the help of far-right Alliance Defending Freedom. Yep, she could sniff it. She could sniff the money. Claiming she had a religious right to refuse to use a student's preferred name if it conflicted with her belief that, quote, sex is a biological function and that a person's gender identity will always match up with their sex. Okay, but a name, again, like, the concept that a name is biological is nonsensical. A name is just a name. And in fact, the pronouns are also just words that don't reflect a biological reality necessarily. Yeah, none of this has to do with being respectful of these students. And literally, you had the option to use their last name. You could avoid pronouns and just use the last name, but no, you're like, I am so bigoted that I can't even be around these teenagers. The lawsuit argued that requiring her to respect a student's preferred name constitutes compelled speech. Sure, Jan. It's respecting people's choices and not harassing them. Well, that's compelled speech, babe. It's like if a homophobic person, like a homophobic teacher was like, yeah, but it's my closely held religious belief that you're a degenerate and you'll never be equal and everything about your existence is disgusting. And if you ask me to politely refer to your partner as your boyfriend, then that's compelled speech. You know? Yeah, it's this kind of same logic of the no gay wedding cake thing. Like, I'm like, me making the cake is somehow an endorsement of your lifestyle or whatever phrase they usually use. Yes, the name is legal, not biological. But yes, the teacher obviously said biological for a reason based on how they spoke to and treated this student. Both these two students. Ooh, the school district countered that the teacher had no right to impose her religious beliefs on students while acting in her official capacity as a teacher. Slam dunk. They argued that using a student's preferred name and pronouns is consistent with creating a, quote, safe, supportive, and non-discriminatory environment for students, which is in line with the school's mission, and that refusing to accommodate a student's name and pronouns violates Title IX. Yeah, did I say Title VII earlier? I meant to say Title IX. The judge sided with the teacher on the first and third claims, so that they have no right to impose the religious beliefs, and that it would be in violation of Title IX, which leaves only the second to be disputed at a later trial, which is basically like whether this is consistent with a safe, supportive, and non-discriminatory environment. To support this ruling, the judge issued unusual legal opinions, including the assertion that using students' preferred names and pronouns was not, quote, pursuant to her official duties. Okay, so interacting with students while you're teaching them is not pursuant to your official duties, apparently. The judge further argued that students' names, quote, convey a message, and that it was not the teacher's responsibility to convey that message. Yeah, so it's exactly the same argument as the cake thing. It's wild that the person doing the suing is the teacher and not the student's family. Well, the student's family doesn't have a monumental think tank behind them like the freaking ADF, the Alliance Defending Freedom. They have money to throw at this issue. Yeah, let's just give children in school serial numbers since they're all cogs being prepared for the machine anyway. Oh, God. So here's an excerpt from the ruling from the judge. It says, so the question is not whether using preferred names and pronouns was part of Garati's ordinary job duties, but whether it was part of her ordinary job duties to convey or refuse to convey the message that those names and pronouns carried. It was not. Garati was a middle school English arts teacher. Her job was to teach English to the appropriate state standards. It was not her job to, quote, teach anything with regard to LGBTQ plus issues. Okay. So I guess her, like, regarding students the way they want to be regarded is teaching LGBTQ this. This is the thing. This is what's so scary about the don't say gay bills around everywhere is that, like, technically speaking, apparently what they're drawing the conclusion to is that using a student's preferred name and pronouns is equivalent to instructing about LGBTQ plus issues. And so, yeah, you can't even be a queer kid in one of these schools and expect to be respected, because then the school would be open to lawsuits or the teacher might lose their job just by calling you by the name that you asked to be called by. Teacher in chat says, I recall distinctly in training to not even come close to messing with Title IX. The judge also dismisses the Title IX claim by stating that, quote, looking uncomfortable is not enough to violate Title IX, and that instead the teacher was teaching tolerance by refusing to use their name and pronouns. We're teaching tolerance by being intolerant of transgender individuals. Wow. What? Okay, so this says, like, Title IX is not implicated unless the, quote, speech inhibited the student's education or ability to succeed in the classroom. Do you honestly think that being misgendered and deadnamed is not an impedance to your ability to succeed in the classroom? Your teacher bullying you is an impedance to your ability to learn, in fact, actually. At most, the record evidence is that student A, quote, looked uncomfortable. Have they requested any comment from student A? Or are they only going off of what Garati said? I mean, she's suing the school district directly, so I'm guessing that the students have not been hooked into this issue. But like, yeah, the student like should be able to say like, no, this impacted the learning environment. This made it harder for me to interact with the classroom. Yeah, I must teach you, the person under me in this social power dynamic, to tolerate my assault on your identity. This says discomfort does not arise to the level of systemically denying student access, equal access to an educational program or activity. All right, whatever. Further, quote, learning how to tolerate speech is part of learning how to live in a pluralistic society, a trait of character essential to a tolerant citizenry. Okay, so yeah, just like tolerating what is functionally hate speech is part of learning how to live in a pluralistic society. Like, basically like saying something that is harmful and insulting to a member of a protected group, like on the basis of their belonging to that group. That's what hate speech is functionally. Like, tolerating bullying from a teacher is part of learning how to live in a pluralistic society. It's an essential character trait for a tolerant citizenry. Yeah, what if we put a nail on this judge's chair? Sorry, but discomfort shouldn't be impeding your ability to do your job. Yeah, bullying builds character. I mean, I guess that is kind of the official opinion of most public schools, that like bullying is not something that they care to address. And this judge also says it is likely that Title IX's definition of sex discrimination does not extend to discrimination on the basis of gender identity. So this is just yet another case that they're going to work up that's basically just going to say that, like, yeah, well, it's legal to discriminate against you for being trans because fuck you, we hate you. Kind of what it comes back to. Yeah, it's sad that this is going to be something this kid remembers. Being treated this way by your teacher and having your teacher lose their job and then sue for the right to disrespect you and like discriminate against you in the classroom. Yeah, what a high school career defining moment. Yeah, the Supreme Court in 8 months. Let's not even. The judge further argued that a preferred name serves to, quote, validate or invalidate someone's perceived sex or gender identity, and that the teacher has a right to use a name that is consistent with her beliefs. Yeah, again, I don't think you have any right to impose your religious beliefs on students in your care. Garati's refusal to address student A and student B by their preferred names manifested her belief that, quote, sex is a biological function and that a person's gender identity will always match up with their sex. It is a damn good thing that I'm not in high school anymore, because I would be such a raging bitch to this person. I would have started harassing her back, basically. I would have started calling her Mr. I would have started calling her, like, Mr. Grossi or something like that. Like, girl, I would have escalated things. It's like, I'm really glad that I didn't deal with any of this when I was in high school, because it would have been a problem. If you refuse to say she to someone because of their, quote, sex, then isn't that discrimination? Yeah, and there was a Supreme Court precedent that they should be just going off that precedent that Title IX protects gender identity, because yes, if you will call someone Bill because they're male, but you won't call someone Bill because they're female, that is sex discrimination. You're treating people differently on the basis of their sex, and that's not supposed to be acceptable. But of course, this judiciary, like all these Trump-appointed judges, like, they're going to continue to erode the concept of legal protections, civil rights, and personal freedoms. Yeah, the judge even said names can invalidate, so the judge sees the damage and doesn't care because the victims are trans. Yep. Oh, this is kind of funny. I don't know that would actually hold any water, but Aaron says, if this logic were to be upheld in higher circuit courts, it could have the unintended consequence for anti-trans organizations like ADF, because by granting a teacher the right to refuse to use a student's preferred name based on personal beliefs about, quote, validating or invalidating gender identity, the ruling could equally empower a teacher who is supportive of trans students to affirm their identity against the wishes of parents who reject their child's gender. This precedent opens the door to other troubling scenarios, like if refusing to use a student's preferred name is protected as a matter of religious freedom, could a Christian teacher similarly refuse to address a Muslim student by the name Mohammed or request they be removed from their classroom? Such outcomes would create a chaotic and inconsistent application of rights, undermining non-discrimination and equal protection in education. These issues have also been previously addressed, like the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals last year ruled that teachers, quote, do not have a right to misgender trans students. The court found that misgendering harms trans students and imposes an undue burden on them, rejecting claims that teachers are not acting in an official capacity when they do so. So, of course, that circuit does not include Ohio. But in August 2023, another federal judge in Ohio did reaffirm that there is no right to intentionally misgender trans students, declaring that, quote, intentional misgendering of students constitutes verbal bullying, and that using pronouns contrary to an individual's preferences evinces disrespect for the individual. The judge concluded that intentional misgendering creates a hostile environment for trans students on account of their gender identity and causes a substantial disruption. So it is going to be interesting. The trial is going to proceed at a later date. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. Yeah, if things were logical, the precedent would apply. But it's like a different court in the state of Ohio. Like, you got to get your shit together. You got to pick up all your shit, put it in a pile, and get it together. Because, yeah, we're having such wildly different results, even within federal courts in the same state. The reason I hesitate to say the Supreme Court would just blanket uphold this, uphold the discriminatory ruling, is because Kavanaugh wrote the majority opinion in ruling that dress code discrimination against trans people was a violation based on sex. So in this case, it would be a judge overturning his own precedent that he set not very long ago. Yeah, but I don't think that they have any scruples or any, I don't think they have any problem with being wildly inconsistent. But we'll see. We'll have to see. I don't know that this particular case, or even if any cases similar to this one, are going to make it to the level of the Supreme Court. But if they do, it's like everything else in this stupid country. I feel like it's just such a wild card. It's such a toss-up for every single issue, whether they're going to, uphold the Constitution or even uphold the interpretations that they've taken of the Constitution in the past. New Ideas set out non-discrimination policies and fire any judges who don't hold on. Yeah, like why do you still have a job if you're not upholding Title IX? Yeah, see, also Roe v. Wade is settled during the Senate hearings. Anyway, I don't know that I have a lot more to add to that. It's like, it's goofy as hell that adults want to you're a teacher. We're supposed to not, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, FFRF. I don't know, maybe some of you are not as deep in the atheist activism as I used to be, but like the Freedom from Religion Foundation, one of the main things they do is, as I remember back in the day, they would sue school districts who had the 10 commandments up in the school. Like, the separation of church and state implies this thing where you're not allowed to have religious iconography in secular public schools. So of course, a teacher does not have the right to teach religion. Like, if using the correct pronouns for these students is, quote, teaching LGBTQ stuff, then refusing to use the pronouns and doing so from a religious perspective, is teaching religious beliefs and imposing religious beliefs on those students. It is a violation of the separation of church and state. Like, whether it's in your official capacity of teaching English or not. Like, if you were a coach for the kids after school track team, it's not your official capacity as a teacher. Does that mean that all the rules involving your comportment go out the window? Thank you to the patrons, especially Bo E, Hapax Legomenon Patient Advocate, Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvag, Sarah A, Jack, Amanda B, Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, Suzanne Maynard, DZXN, Jamie Jam, Nova, Sojo, Past Null Infinity, Elizabeth Bartell, Jericho, Athiet, Desi Quiche, Celeste, Mr. Atheist, Liam Hodgson, Kevin Young, and Ella V. Nobody.